Not sure if you're the same person as I do, but every time before I start a painting, I always think of a lot of stuff, just like what kind of canvas do I have to paint, or how do I choose from raw or prime canvas. Personally, in my art practice, I actually use both prime and raw canvas in my paintings. So to choose the canvas that really fits you the most, we can simply look at these 3 factors. And the first one is time, which means that amount of time that takes you from preparing the surface until you start painting. Obviously, in terms of time, I think like pre-primed canvas wins at all costs, because like there's not much of things that you need to do. You just trim it into the size that you want to paint, and then you can either stretch it on the stretcher bar, or you can simply just stick it onto a surface or a wall and you can start painting right away. On the other hand, for raw canvas, I would prepare the surface properly, which is like to stretch, seal and prime the canvas so that the oil paint doesn't penetrate the fabric, and which cause dull appearance on my painting. Even though it takes more time and effort to prepare the raw canvas until I can start painting, I find the process is quite satisfying. So the process will look something like, first I will stretch the canvas onto the stretcher bar, and then I would seal them with animal skin glue. I would prime the canvas with a layer of gesso, then sand it off and prime it again to get a smooth surface. Then only I can start painting. So this process takes at least 2 days to finish before I can start painting. It gives me some space and some time to think about what I want to paint next. That's why I'm still using raw canvas. And then the second factor would be cost. Depending on where you buy your art supply from, the price of your canvas can vary very differently. But in most of the case, prime canvas is actually more expensive than the raw canvas. And for raw canvas, you can simply buy it from any fabric store, which in my experience is way cheaper than the normal art store. So in this case, raw canvas is definitely cheaper than the prime canvas, but then you have to also consider the cost of the material that you use to stretch your raw canvas. With raw canvas, obviously stretcher bar is a must, so you get to tighten the painting surface tight enough to paint on it, and also the sealant to tighten up the whole painting surface, which is animal skin glue, and also we have to think of the primer. I normally use a white gesso to prime my painting, and also sandpaper to make sure that your painting surface is smooth enough. So if you add up all the material costs to prepare your raw canvas, prime canvas seems to be a cheaper option to go for, which brings to our third factor, which is texture. If you want your painting to show the raw material of a canvas, I would say you can go for the raw canvas, but instead of the white gesso that I use, you can instead get a clear gesso, which is slightly more pricier, but you still get to show the surface of the raw canvas instead of the pre-primed canvas. At the end of the day, it really depends on your practice and your preference to use either raw canvas or prime canvas to do your paintings. So I would say like try to experience with both surface and see which fits you the most. If I feel like I don't have enough time to prepare my painting surface, I would simply just go for prime canvas. Even though I like to prepare my raw canvas in the most traditional way possible, but some artists simply just use oil paint on top of raw canvas without priming them, which is totally fine. It all depends on your practice and what your preference is. So subscribe to my channel and let's get painting.